Hello Les, this is my video diary for Project 2. Brecht believed that theatre was more than just performance and that it should have some social and political impact. I believe that his approach broke away from reality and the emotional manipulation of words, unlike Stanislavski. Brecht wanted his theatre to challenge and provoke the thoughts rather than the emotion. Brecht's style is more elaborate and creative, but Stanislavski believed that actors should live the part and become the part and play their characters as truly as possible and kind of naturally find their character and become them, as opposed to kind of representing them or representing ideas in society through this different, unnaturalistic, kind of elaborate way that Brecht wanted to do it. I think that the audience will be able to see these differences through the different techniques that we use, the distancing techniques. So when we're breaking the fourth wall, we've got a narrator, or we're using placards, these things that wouldn't be used in Stanislavski's work because they are quite unnaturalistic and quite different. I think the audience will know from that they will be able to distinguish the difference between our Stanislavski work and our Brechtian work, and I think that those differences will be quite obvious and detectable, because they are, as kind of ideas in performance, they are quite different, and I think that will come across within our piece. One of the techniques that we used was narration in the form of directly addressing the audience, and we used this by reading some fables where we had a narrator who read the fable out, and other actors in the group were performing to the fable, and this shows the difference between Stanislavski and Brecht. Because that in a Stanislavski production, that kind of production, that wouldn't have happened, and I think with the narrator we were able to connect to the audience a bit better, because one person, they had to focus on one person talking, and they could listen to them, connect, and when they weren't talking, they could watch the piece. It wasn't all happening at the same time. So I think because you're kind of individualizing these different things, you can understand the piece better. The second technique that we have learnt about is using soundscape, and this is where you kind of create sounds on top of the acting that's already going on to kind of create a mood or an atmosphere. And I think this was a really interesting one to learn about, and one that I'm definitely going to try and include in future pieces, and we're going to include into our project too. We have already included it in our first scene, and I think using the different sounds can kind of create a mood and an atmosphere that can't necessarily be reached with the acting, and it's another example of where Brecht's technique is kind of really unnatural and unpredictable and not normal, so to speak, not like Stanislavski. It's not naturalistic at all. The final technique that we've learnt about is using placards, and this is where you can kind of display a piece of information on a piece of paper or a poster or a sign, and you can use this for many different things to kind of get information across to the audience that's not going to be said. So it's an unnaturalistic way of reaching the audience and getting information across to them without them being told. And we experimented with using this in groups, and in a group that I was in a few days ago, we used this to in an advert to show people what we were advertising, and yeah, I think it's a really helpful technique, and one that I think we're definitely going to include into our piece because of how helpful it is. So finally, as the production manager, I have, during the half term, I've made sure that people were setting, I helped set deadlines before half term,
I made sure that people were getting on with those deadlines during the half term. I made sure that people had shared the script electronically, so people could view it and people could start reading through it. I've tried to be as organised as possible. However, I have failed in that, and I've not done as well as I should have done, because today for the first lesson I have not produced a good enough any production schedule, and this is not acceptable, and this is not something that I'm going to do again, and I can definitely learn from that, so I can be prepared, and I can work together as a team and make sure everyone else is prepared as well.